Hey, what is going on, everyone? Astrologer Eric Rosen here, and welcome to the April 2025 edition of What's the Big Thing to Pay Attention to for your sun sign, your rising sign, from this astrologer that's been looking at these transits for a while now. All the Aries, all the Pisces energy. We just had Neptune enter into Aries, and so I'm excited to really dive specifically into how is it going to be this first month of this new experience that we've never seen in our lives of Neptune and Aries. And also, we're going to be having that Venus retrograde and that Mercury retrograde, which can be kind of a downer in Pisces a little bit, but it's also clearing space too. We're going to have those planets retrograde for about half the month, and then we roll into about the middle of the month, and then they go direct. And so we'll talk a bit about that too. But first, I want to say, if you ever want to go deeper and you want to get an astrology reading, you can click on that link down below to book that. I will put up a special link for anyone that's maybe been on the fence and maybe you need like a financing option. I've got like a new option where you can actually do a finance plan if that's something that you fancy. And then, of course, the astrology ebook, if you want to do more of a DIY route to learn your chart, that will be down below as well. So before we get into the signs, of course, I always like to talk a little bit about the collective energy, focusing on the fact that we are now in this new 6-month eclipse cycle. We just had the solar eclipse in Aries on the 29th. Then Neptune came into Aries the very next day. And we also had Mercury flip places with Neptune, where right after the eclipse on the 29th, it was retrograde at 0 degrees of Aries, and now it came back into Pisces to join Venus retrograde, to join that North node that is in Pisces as well. And then, of course, Saturn is catching up towards the end of the zodiac too, and going to be meeting with these planets, especially, I would say, that North node by the middle of this month. So a lot of action still with Pisces. It's not just Aries energy, so very end of the zodiac, beginning of the zodiac. So far, other than what I've put out about Neptune and Aries, I put out a couple of videos. Of course, you can check those out, the last two. But what I will say, my experience so far individually of Neptune and Aries is very much that things feel really good and in the flow when we're okay with this omnidirectional presence of spirit that can come in and be a part of our identity, as opposed to like the ego freak out. There's kind of these like two polarities where Neptune and Pisces or in Aries can be the sensitivities, the fears, the ego, maybe hesitant to take action in Aries. Fears, irrational fears, just like getting a little too chaotic, a little too extreme with which way do I go, that sort of confusion, versus more so just this gentle, intuitive, okay, like let's flow here, let's see what the possibilities are. And it's like, wow, okay, there are a lot of possibilities and none of them are really wrong. It's more so just about, I would say, the essence of this experience that we want to have. I think that's the biggest thing, is that if we can get behind the essence of how we're showing up and the actions that we're taking, then that's a beautiful thing, because that immediately is getting into the depths of, are we doing something out of survival still? Is it fear-based? Because if we get into the essence of it, we can pause and go, yeah, no, I don't want to run that pattern anymore. I actually want to take actions more from a place of knowing that I'm spiritually protected and supported. And I think that's what a lot of Neptune and Aries is that the protection, the bravery, the courage to be that light being, be that light worker, to know that it's okay. Like if you fall, like you're going to be okay. Like even if like the worst case scenario, like you run into delays or stoppages, that's more so just a check to see like, oh crap, I was in the ego. I was doing that pattern. I was just trudging along and thinking that I could push through and do whatever I wanted without actually considering the energy behind it. And I think that's what this is like teaching us as individuals with Neptune and Aries, is very much this, where are we really vibing at? Do we actually feel like, you know, we can kind of start the distraction of the devil on one shoulder and go with the angel on the other, and listen to more of that and see that, sure, that temptation to maybe be afraid to take an action or to take actions that are like too extreme or too aggressive or violent, in the energy, not necessarily in the physical. Hopefully no one's doing that, but that can still be there, that seductive energy. But to actually go with something that feels more gentle and therapeutic. And the nice thing is I think that we can shift our state, we can shift our vibrational state really instantaneously with this energy. So, and then when it comes to the Venus retrograde, when it comes to that Mercury retrograde in Pisces with that North Node and Saturn, I think that part of what we're learning with the eclipse energy in Aries, what we're learning with Neptune in Aries is like, hey, sure, you can take action, but the reason to check in to see if it's actually spiritually aligned is like, you might push and then see that the hope and wish that you were going for isn't actually there and it doesn't show up. It was like too rose-colored glasses, too optimistic with that that Mercury and that Venus retrograde. It's like the physicality wasn't there, the facts weren't there, but it's also not about not doing anything or not taking a direction, right? Just because we're not going to see Mercury go direct out of its retrograde until the 7th of this month, and just because we're not going to see Venus go direct until the 12th of this month, it doesn't mean that, we go into a spiritual cave, for the first 2 weeks of the month, unless like you really feel at a deep soul level that you need that. And I think there is still some of that. There's still like a spiritual retreat energy. I would call this almost like the getting ready to be more extroverted into the world and launch your plans of what it is that you've been thinking about, or feeling the push, or maybe even God's pressure. It's good to feel that pressure to do something bigger in life that's brave, that puts more of a expression of something really creative, especially with that sextile between Saturn and Uranus that's still going to be happening throughout a lot of the month here, to take our creations further in a magical way than what we've gone before. And so with this new sense of identity, this updating our avatar, this spiritual expression of ourselves from everything that we've been learning, from shedding fear-based patterns and ego identities and shit like that, that we can show up better in that way. But it's being careful about those false starts. I think the golden zone is really for launches, I think, is Taurus season. So, April 19th, April 20th, and giving it like that extra week after Venus goes direct. So Mercury will be direct, so we'll have a little bit of time to like start chugging along. Mars is actually going to finally move back into Leo this month too. So I think that's where things can really start to move forward. How I would treat this is like, whatever it is that you're thinking about, I would play chess spiritually and get the vibration right for the approach and the actions that you're taking, that it's about still working on the self and how you're gonna be that character and that expression that's so solid and spiritually authentic that it's just so automatic. When the launch happens, you're just a natural vibrational match for whatever new thing that you're wanting to do. Because I think we are in the spring for most of this month. Well, we're in the spring, but we're had the spring equinox in Aries season, right? We're in Aries season most of the month until it transitions to Taurus season on the 19th. And so it's about knowing that, yes, the ground is fertile, but it's Aries, and with all this energy, the way it aligns in the zodiac, it's like the fertility of I would say the spiritual reconstruction of the self and the soul to align more the physical creation of things. And that's God's pressure, not the ego pressure of like, fuck, I need to do something, whether it's like with the retrogrades, the fear of like needing to connect to more relationships or people or money situations or project or something like that, or feeling stagnant and getting like too extreme, like needing to force a change. I think that would be the worst thing, like, because there's so many opportunities for some really beautiful strategy here if we give ourselves permission to take actions that feel aligned in the moment and not hold ourselves back and not escape from our sense of duty to ourselves, to even the collective and the people that we can help with some really great, beautiful ideas during this time. And that's for people of all walks of life. It's really just about finding that sense of renewed passion again, that any place that you are blocked, it's time to release that stuff. This is a time, I would say, where if you've had dreams that you haven't like really seeded or taken action on, that's part of the background chess match of like getting things ready so that you're aligned and putting things into place. So it's like working on the self. It can be working on the stuff on the back end too, of like anything that you're wanting to put out there different in the world that's physical, but just know that you're probably gonna have to fix some steps, because it is Mercury at its worst position, retrograde, along with Venus in Pisces. And so the footing is just not there, for the detailed work and the creations and the manifestations of anything. And I think we have to look at this more so as like, what's still the lingering stuff from the past that still comes up to haunt us, and releasing those manifestations is a really good one, as well as just going deeper into a soul sense of mission and expression of going, okay, like Neptune is the ruler of Pisces. It was in Pisces since 2011. It's taken a break for most of this year until it retrogrades back in the fall. And it's like, okay, well, now that's in Aries and it rules Pisces, where all this energy is at, it's really not about what we want with a relationship, a money, a project situation, how we want our dream life to look. It's more like God, divine creator's marching orders, but knowing that we are that co-creator, that we have to align our vibration like with that essence of ourselves more than ever, to position ourselves so that there aren't delays, there aren't stoppages, there aren't hard-nosed lessons that are spiritual in nature, but maybe they're lessons that we don't need. And so my guess is that a lot of us will run into that with this first pass of Neptune in Aries this year, and that's okay. You get the trial run out of the way, but we can start to practice an early round of mastery just by not forcing things and paying attention to the things that we've been asked to do, essentially, that we've been like really working on doing, and paying attention to those things. So let's get into the signs, shall we? So first off, we've got Aries. Aries, you have Neptune in your sign, right? And so you still got those retrogrades of Venus, of Mercury, North Node, Saturn in your 12th house in Pisces. And so you are the poster child for what are the divine's marching orders. This is really taking a deep look in the mirror to make sure that the actions that you're taking aren't falsified from some illusionary place, from some old script in your unconscious mind. And it's kind of being spiritual detective-like to make sure that you understand the motivation and the why behind your actions, and that you're not just doing things from what on the surface could look like from a place of fear, but it's fear that came from what, though? It's like, go deeper and define that. Was it from a situation with a parent? Was it a past life situation? What you ideally want to be experiencing and keep shooting for, even if you don't hit the mark, because it's like shoot for the stars, and if you fall short, it's okay, you land on the highest mountain, Aries. It's like the idealistic expression of you want to feel like dreamy, like when you're taking the actions, because you understand that there's something that you're motivated towards, and you may not be able to see it, sense it, touch it, like feel it fully, but dial in that intuitive compass during this time. Really reflect on the person that you've been, the person that you are, the person that you're becoming, because then you're just like so rock solid, you're just unshakable. Like no matter what fears come up, you know how to deal with it. You've got a strategy to deal with it. It's just this compaction of like, not everything has to be a crazy spiritual wild goose chase to like figure out the multiple directions that you could take in your life right now. Your intuition is just gonna like lead you. And so you kind of got to follow that scent right now. And anything that you've already been working on, it's just applying that new application of you to it and going forward. So if you want to go deeper than that, of course, you can click on that link down below and book an astrology reading with yours truly. Taurus, this is your 12th house with the Aries energy of Neptune and where this eclipse happened in Aries. And so then it's your 11th house with a Venus and Mercury retrograde, along with North Node Saturn. So you're still dealing with weird endings, with cycles of people, where it's like getting out of your own way, of your own fears, of like more social world connection of people of just like different places. And so I think you do need to make the decision of the people that are not really meant to be that close to you, that connected to you. But I don't think you're going to be able to see the full energy of why these things need to happen, why there needs to be some musical chairs with you and people and tribe, until you really allow yourself to really feel deeper into those situations. It's a lot of like, how do I feel around this person? And feeling is going to be your best friend, honestly, like not just through those cycles with people, but also like your own alone time, and you're getting into meditation more, getting into prayer more. This is Neptune in your 12th. Like, you should be connecting with God, creator, goddess, whatever you want to call it, every morning when you get up, when you go to bed, and checking in multiple times a day, so that you're not creating some of your own, you could say, stories, especially around people, or, you know, it can even be love situations, your reality, just anything across the board that could be a misidentification, whether it's like the high of the extreme of like a dreamy expression of it, or the low of being like, this isn't a safe situation, and then that's just like doubling down on issues of safety and stability that you've been very much like learning in yourself. So this is about you updating how you see yourself. What's your avatar version of how you connect with spirit? Like, what's your spiritual identity? You know, like, is it a Jedi? Is it a Marvel character? I mean, it's good to like play with this and actually see like, what is the energy that can be identified that's in the collective consciousness? Is it more masculine? Is it more feminine? Is it more of a fighter? Is it more of a lover? Identify what that is. Maybe even like draw that out and write that out. Be abstract and, you know, cool in a expression of it that way. And then that can be something you could kind of feed to an image in the mind, or like your third eye. And that's one way you can know that you're tracking your connection with spirit. It's not about armoring up the ego or how you're going to assert yourself in situations, especially with people. It's more so like, how do you give more social cues to yourself for staying spiritually connected to the divine, so that there's not this like weird hesitation, hiccups with the actions you're taking in life in general, the things that you're doing out in the world. It's not about an over questioning or overhyping it, or there's too many things to figure out. That's like, that would be like going into Alice in Wonderland and then opening Pandora's box in Alice in Wonderland. Like, it's too much subconscious stuff. I think that the simplicity of it is just more playing around with a new expression of character, and it may not seed fully because you have Uranus obviously in your sign finishing up these next few months, and so the upgrades are there. But I think one of the great things about this month is that you can actually, you know, be a really awesome creator. You know, Jupiter's in your second house. You've got that sextile between Saturn in the 11th house of Pisces and Uranus in your sign of Taurus. And so I think that's it. Like, your evolution around people and your creations and what you're manifesting, it's just going to come simpler and easier if you have this more divine connection. I know that can sound like it's easier said than done, but I think that's got to be your primary objective now, your focal point, so that you don't just like feel like you're flapping in the breeze, that you're actually defining this conduit connection, like that you're hardwired, like that you're just brave and you're like, I know what I need to do. It reminds me like Neo, like, I know I got to go to the machine city. I got to like follow that hardwire there. And it's like, that's the most dangerous place to go to. And honestly, that's probably it, Taurus, is that you need to face what actually feels like a fear and a spiritual blockage to go to the place that you don't want to go, to see how stable and safe and secure you actually are in yourself and around people, so that you can start to open up your throat chakra more and express it around people. So if you want to go deeper than that, you can of course click on that link down below and book a reading with me. So Geminis, Aries is your 11th house, Pisces being your 10th house. So, situations for sure with people. There's a lot going on. I think that a lot of this is you identifying and kind of asserting that it's not, it's God, but it's also like creator, but it's also all the angels and the archangels and the spirit guides. It's like all the things in the heavens that you can connect with to help support the type of world that you want to live in and identify. And that should definitely involve people. It's okay to probably want to identify it of how are you the leader in that community and tribe. And that's a good thing to actually consciously design that image of that world so that you're not demanding it from an ego place and expecting it and then getting mad if it doesn't happen or feeling isolated or disconnected from the world. I think you got to update the image of what is it that you're really inviting in with groups of people and community. It's going to be hard to probably treat it as more of a business networking type situation. I think you got to just more define the essence of being around spiritual tribe. That's really the biggest update. It's the qualities of the people that you want to be around and maybe be concerned more about the physicality or the money piece or the business side of it later on. This is almost just get to know different people in different groups and communities, and then you just know people all over. And then when it actually becomes more time to update something that's more in the physical expression of, especially a business situation, really committing deeper to the relationships that are actually going to help you go far, then you just know the person to reach out to and connect with. And so this is a really good time to not double down on relationships that you're uncertain about or projects that you're uncertain about. It's more about that vision and just the people that you want to be around, because your greatest resource right now is just going to be people, but it's also people that are spiritually minded, because you don't want to be butting heads with people. You can always work through those, disagreements, conflicts with people that have different spiritual way of seeing things that's actually good and healthy for you, to your vitality, to not see eye to eye on everything. It's actually probably going to help inform the long-term progression of where you're going over not just months but years going forward. So if you want to go deeper than that, Gemini, click on that link down below. You can book a reading with me. Well, Cancer, Aries is your 10th house and Pisces is your 9th house. And so the solar eclipse, Neptune, now in Aries in the 10th, it could feel a little bit like a lone wolf thing, like the hermit that's got to listen to the God's orders and be kind of like Moses and or Kevin Costner, Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come type thing. You kind of just have to be okay with the loneliness element of what the divine is asking you to do. You can be up on that mountaintop and get those marching orders, and it's but are you willing to take the calculated risk to trust that if there's something really potent moving through you that you feel like you have to do, but no one can go with you in the initiation phase? That's a good thing. I think it is good to make sure that it's actually coming from a divine place and not trying to prove something to the world place, or that it's not you think that it's the divine, but really it's just a false ego ambition that came from a past life or a past situation or something. And actually use the Pisces energy to actually bounce ideas off people and be sociable, and just kind of reminds me of sitting around at a picnic or hanging out with people or by the water cooler or whatever, and just kind of share what direction it is that you're thinking about going in, and then seeing how people react to the energy of it. that way it's kind of like you're showing a spiritual commitment to the universe by actually bringing people into it, and these new foreign things that you're actually thinking about like doing. And the weird thing is like traditionally you would want people to like resonate like with it, but actually the more extreme the reaction that the person has to your idea is probably the better. Like where some people like it or are supportive and some people don't. That can be really informative too about where your relationships are going. Hint, hint. But also, you want your big direction that feels like you're going to have to do it alone at first to feel polarizing, to feel like some people want to see you win and are supportive, and other people are like, yeah, I don't know about that, because they don't get it. But you could always take the time to explain it better. But if they don't get it, or it puts it into their face that they're not like, they're afraid to pursue their ambitions, I think you're going to be around a lot of people that don't have the same ambitions that you do, and that could even be in yourself too, your unconscious side. If you have to like kind of look at your shadow side to make sure that Neptune being in your 10th with you being a Cancer, it's like the reason that the rising sign squares the 10th house is because we have to initiate our long-term goals. We have to decide authentically who we're going to be, and go into that boardroom career, climb the corporate ladder, goals, blah, blah, blah thing, and maintain both senses of those cardinal commitments of new initiations. And so you still got to be comfortable and take care of yourself, but you also got to like get off the couch like too and actually show up and do something that's going to involve some bravado. So if you want to go deeper than that, Cancer, you can click on that link down below and book a reading with me. Well, Leos, what do we got for you? You've got your 9th house is Aries with the solar eclipse that happened and this Neptune in Aries, so expansion, baby. And then 8th house is where the Venus Mercury retrograde are for you in Pisces, but also that Saturn North Node that's going to meet. So you kind of have to trust. You really have to trust that you're going to have the resources to do what you need to do to go in the direction that you can possibly go in. You've got the most multi-directional place that you could ever go now with Neptune in Aries, where it's kind of like there is no wrong direction to go. I think it's more so you just have to assess your hesitations. Are those hesitations because of you can't do it because you don't have the resources, you don't have the funding, like the investors or something in a place that you want to go? Maybe you feel like you don't have the energy. It can even be deep fears of like, whoa, wait, is this even the right thing to do? Like, is this the holy thing to do? Like, am I a bad person for having these desires to go in this direction? And I don't think that you are. I think that you just have to pick a direction that fits a modern belief that makes sense and it's simple, so that you're not creating a crazy story around what can happen. It's just more of a natural direction that's derived from something that you've already been exploring fears around, of like your commitments, probably especially in business, and that you just got to lay the tracks for it and lay it out, and go as far as that you can go with it. It's not about, I can't do it because I don't have this yet, or I don't want to waste my time, or I don't want to waste my energy. That's all very valid, but that's where you need to have a philosophical belief system that is the most like ultra spiritual and dialed in. It's this, you got a nice transit here in the essence of, since reality tends to contour to our beliefs, it's like the belief that you commit to is going to tend to be the thing that shows up in this crazy spiritual energetic reality that we're all stepping into together. So it can be scary, but it's like, feel your way through it, face your fears, face your dilemmas, face the, places where it feels like the universe is closing the door in your face sometime, or you're having crazy challenges like come up or whatever that distract you from like having that belief, I think that it's facing the feelings and having the love that you have for yourself as a Leo to go, well, let me feel into why I'm not fully committed and afraid to go with a belief that's actually going to take me in the direction that I really want to go. And sometimes those feelings, those emotions might actually lead you to, yeah, no, this is not the right direction to go, or you can't do this yet, or just it's a pipe dream for now, and that's okay, but at least the feelings informed you. But the mastery of you doing that is that once you feel into the inspiration of something that can work and can track and can move forward for the ambitious goals in your life, it's going to come from the spiritual practice of you feeling deeper than you felt before and actually facing those fears. So if you want to go deeper than that, Leo, you can click on that link down below and book a reading. We're on to Virgos. So Virgo, Aries, where the solar eclipse happened with Neptune, that is in Aries, it's 8th house. And so your 7th house of relationships is all of Pisces, the Venus retrograde, the Mercury retrograde, that North Saturn that are going to meet this month. So your biggest spiritual commitment needs to definitely be in your relationships right now. And it's not about so much like trying to understand or create like new relationships. It's really a deep commitment to the peace and poise and harmony and communication in relationships right now. And I know that can be difficult and you can't force it. You kind of just have to allow challenges to come to the surface. That's helping you collect evidence for seeing where the hidden part, where your relationships like weren't in a good space to begin with. And so it's going to help you more with your longer term of balancing them out. It's just bringing up and helping identify those hidden issues. Simply put, I think this is your time to commit to your passions deeper than you've ever committed to, which could be the scariest thing in your life. And you might want to like turn and run from it, or feel like there's something that you want, but then you go to do it, but then you feel like you fuck it up or something, or that it doesn't go the way that you had hoped. Like it could be being overwhelmed with fear. This is about being Ricky Bobby in Talladega Nights and getting over your fear and getting on the horse again and riding with the tiger in the front seat of the car, to where it's like you get your balls back, or your oomph back, man or woman. Just to be real, Aries is your 8th house. Like it's meant to be sexy time, like in terms of like the passion and just the ecstatic energy when you get where you're like, whoa, like I'm doing this thing and this is intense. But some of that intensity is going to be deep soul level looks in order to like get to that point before you're actually, you could say, taking the action, especially around the people that you're around, the relationships that you're around, to actually showcase it. I think you're in a good position to actually show the world how the occult and spiritual magic and law of attraction energy really like works, especially to your relationships, which can feel weird as a Virgo. But with the South Node in your sign, that's what you're meant to do. You're here to release all your preconceived notions of how the physical scientific reality works, and to reach for what's already been proven spiritually that's true for more of a hermetic alchemical law of how do the laws of the universe work, not so much about, just gravity or how interest accumulates on bank accounts or the trends of markets of crypto, or, trends are not your friend right now. They're your enemy. Like what you want to be doing is facing your fears of attracting your own reality based on the vibration, and kind of like cracking the codes of like Earth right now, of where the rest of the status quo is at, and actually overcoming the odds, like so to speak, to actually attract a reality that's truly highly desirable to you. So pretty crazy, Virgo, but not something you would traditionally maybe think of as a Virgo, but that's the growth. The growth is in your 7th house. It's outside of you. It's like you got to reach for the stars. So if you want to go deeper than that, Virgo, you can click on that link down below, book a reading. Well, Libras, Aries with a solar eclipse happened, and where Neptune is now in Aries, it's your 7th house. So your relationships Pisces, your sixth house, day-to-day life, health, routines. The Mercury retrograde, the Venus retrograde until the middle of the month, and then that Saturn, that North Node, and they're going to meet. I think this is about building a new system in life that's actually going to like work for the spiritual life that you actually were born to live and want to live. Not the one that's like the spiritual one where you're on the pulpit, where you're actually like secretly criticizing people or having critical thoughts of yourself and meditating and hiding. It's actually like being in the physical reality, like proving that spirituality like does work, like to actually be doing it like every fucking moment, and that you're just dialed in and that you're not judging people, you're just neutral, you're seeing things as they are. That's all it is. You're just seeing things as they are. It's just energy. Because you doing that and having that communication style and like living your life in that way more is going to allow you to get out of any fog misunderstandings in what's going on in your closer relationships, because that's the weird thing with Neptune being in your seventh house. It's kind of like maybe you thought you had a beat or an identification on relationships, and it's been probably a sensitive one with Chiron here, but which is important because it's like you don't want to keep repeating the same stuff in relationships that you've been doing since 2019 of how you identify it, that sometimes could be a projection of actually like where you're at, but then it's like how do they take ownership of their individual part and you take yours, and stay diplomatic in that way. And maybe you started to get a beat on that with the eclipse, but then immediately Neptune comes in here and it's like, surprise, wake up, like your relationship situation isn't exactly what you thought it was going to be or where it's going. But it's not a bad thing. That's just where it's like maybe you were taking it in a direction that was like kind of weird, and then God stepped in and is like, hey, I'm here for divine intervention. I'm going to help you. I'm going to tutor your understanding of what's actually happening, and God could be like your COO, your chief operating officer in your day-to-day reality now, with the stuff that you're doing, the directions that you're going, especially that are going to be reflected in your partnership. So I would pay attention to that, or you could be a time for like new spirit guides coming in, Libra, or at least like new ways of listening and understanding in this convoluted universe. Like if you feel stuck, maybe go like read some spiritual books, like some Dolores Cannon stuff, and get an understanding of a greater mapping of how things work, so that you can get the encouragement to live your reality in a more spiritual way that's not, based upon the old way of release of living life spiritually, like, because that's all what's meant to release right now. It's South Node Virgo in your 12th house. So if you want to go deeper than that, Libra, you can click on that link down below and book a reading. Scorpios. Well, Scorpio, Neptune has moved out of your 5th house in Pisces of love into your 6th house of your day-to-day work life in Aries with the solar eclipse. You got to get on it. This is going to be real, Scorpio. Any fibbing you've been doing to yourself and kind of like circle jerking with your inner child, like mental masturbation, it's time to actually do it. Now, what's hard about Neptune being in your 6th house in Aries is, how's your health? Did you manifest a health situation that was a vibrational law of attraction energy with how you've been dealing with Neptune in Pisces since 2011? That's just been a long time coming. That could kind of slow your roll a little bit, because you're going to have to deal with the sensitivities of how you're feeling, as a way of informing you of like how potent of a Scorpio can you actually be right now. The good news is that the inspiration isn't going away if you're willing to commit to it with that North Node Saturn in Pisces in your 5th house. But with Venus retrograde until almost the middle of the month, and then until the 7th with the Mercury retrograde, I don't know that you're going to have the full understanding of like what you can hold on to, like when you need to have courage like what things to actually do energetically to actually get yourself out of any holes, ruts. Maybe you could feel like you're playing catch up a little bit in some ways, or fuck, there's more I could have been doing, or I could do more now. But then you have to make sure that your health, your energy, your day-to-day life, that you're not creating stress because your mind is like outpacing what the divine is saying and being like, whoa, yeah, like we want you to be in the chariot. It's like the chariot card in the tarot, like full speed ahead. But like, what is full speed for you right now? You have to be honest about that and not have like white lies about, well, I see this roadblock ahead, or this delay or stoppage, or I got to go in this direction, so I'm just going to coast till I get there. And it's like, well, is that really what your intuition is telling you? Is that what your heart's telling you? Or, it could be like, well, I just got to get past this thing and then I'll go full speed ahead. And I'll be like Han Solo and the Millennium Falcon, and I'll just go wherever I want and just do my thing, and I'll always get away with it. And it's like, this is a fact check of the reality, because Neptune in the 6 is weird because, it could be like trying to like cover up what you've been doing or cover up the facts, or like you can't white out or throw a cover on like what you're doing. Like God, the divine sees it all, and it's like, okay, well, you're an alchemist, Scorpio, you're hermetic, you're spiritual, like you know how this stuff works. If that's what you're engaging in, or that's what you're doing, then guess what? You're gonna get more of that. And if you think it sucks, then I guess you need more of that. And I know it might sound like I'm hard on you, Scorpio, but you're the one with the thrusters, that can go in a very beautiful direction of your truest heart's desire, but you can't be afraid to do it. And even if you gotta like make lemonade out of lemons, like with a health or a stress situation, or like some just reality thing that you just have to deal with and can't get past, I think that you can do it. It's just, I think it's important for you to also rely on the spiritual ways of healing with Neptune in your 6th house, that it's not just going to be like some straightforward scientific way of how you heal or deal with stress or whatever, and the latest fad that everyone's talking about. It's got to actually come from your intuitive side. So if you want to go deeper than that, Scorpio, you can click on that link down below and book a reading with me. When it comes to Sagittarius, Sag, your 5th house, this is a good thing, I think, as long as you're not afraid of love. 5th house is Aries, where Neptune's at, and the solar eclipse happen and the cycle that you're in. But 4th house being Pisces, where that Mercury is going to be retrograde to the 7th, and Venus until about the middle of the month. Saturn, North Node meeting, Pisces in your 4th. I think this is a good thing. I like, that Saturn's been traversing through your 4th house, like keeping you anchored, like there's safety through all the fears and everything. Just remember, it's not about your career right now. There could be a lot of seduction to like want to be public and the big honcho and persona, and you could even be inside out in this a little bit of trying to live in an old reality of thinking that you could be like a popular person based upon like an old paradigm of like Hollywood bright light stars stuff that's already ended. It's more about your family, your emotions, how are you feeling, like how are you feeling about your stuff with money? How are you feeling about the projects that you're incubating on? It may be hard to get a read specifically on what you're feeling emotionally, and that's okay. It's just have practices that allow you to drop into what's going on for you emotionally, privately. That's going to really help with decision making in your family unit. Whether it's like you live with family or just like your biological family, whatever it is, maybe extended family. But the 5th house situation with that Neptune, that solar eclipse, it's kind of like, is there wishy-washiness actually committing to love, committing to the magic carpet ride? Like, do you know how to define that? Do you know how to define the enchanting journey that your heart actually wants to go on, and just like be assertive and be like, okay, like, it would be like you're dating and you're about to choose a partner, but you're afraid because you got hurt the last time in the past history. But it's like the courage to just go, okay, I pick you. I'm going all in, and I'm willing. If there's fears that come up, if there's slips, if there's stuff from the past, I've got baggage, you've got baggage, we'll work through it. Same thing if you're in a partnership where it's, in a romantic situation already, where it's like, okay, let's renew our vows, so to speak, through sickness and health, but also identifying and going like, through sickness and health also means like, are you doing your part? Am I doing my part? Like, is the divine a part of our relationship? Because that's the weird thing too. It's like, I usually joke about this. It's like, you want sex and intimacy to feel like you're having a threesome with the divine, it's like, it's not just two people, like there's a divine connection, because, sex is a very powerful energy and intimacy. So you want this good, steamy, dreamy energy with Neptune in your 5th house of anything on the romantic front. It doesn't have to be sex, but it is like that connection. So, playfulness, inner child stuff, just be careful about not using it to escape. Use it more as like a rocket boost for your commitments that you're already committed to, so that you can have even more fun. And you can make kids a part of that mix too. Like if you're around any like situations with children, all this stuff is going to help your creativity too, to where you can keep working on the stuff that you've already been doing and don't worry about, your longer term shit, or how do I launch this, or how am I ever going to get this out to the world, or how long do I need to incubate this, when's the right time to do this thing or that thing physically of some creative aspect. It's going to be more so your intuition knows. Don't stop questioning it. And then understand that you feeling into your emotions and even dashing some of your like creative stuff with the garnish of like some Edgar Allan Poe stuff of like a little bit of like, hey, I'm still me and still doing my thing, but I'm also going through like, this thing too. And here's what I've like learned from it. That's a good thing, because whether that's just sharing it with your family or romantic partner is a good thing. It doesn't have to be the whole fucking world, but it's like, that's good because it keeps you honest, so that you're not falling behind on your emotional cash, that you're not like getting moody and stuff like that, that you're actually like dealing with those things. And you're not going to be able to understand it unconsciously. It'll birth later, but it's like, that's going to actually help your creativity long term and like what you're going for, and there'll just be less frustration later for any ideas, things that you're wanting to do. So if you want to go deeper than that, Sag, you can click on that link down below and book a reading. When it comes to Capricorns, on to the first sign of the winter season, Capricorns, it's so interesting, right? Because you love business and the exaltation of being out in the world traditionally, but so many things at the bottom of your chart. Aries is your 4th house with the solar eclipse is now completed, new 6-month cycle. Neptune just entered into Aries, going to be here for a few months in your 4th house. Emotions, family, foundation. But the Pisces energy is still kind of wreaking havoc on your mind a little bit of trying to factually understand all the directions that you could go in. Venus, Mercury retrograde, Saturn, North Node. I think Saturn's the best part, is because it can at least help you anchor into the facts of things and just like, well, we don't need to get confused. What are we doing right now? It's understanding, here's how energy works. So here's the behavior and the mindset, the perspective that's actually going to help you create something dreamy. So honestly, your best work is going to be working with your emotions and working with your mind, for what you want to do and building that foundation. So it's a strategy of updating your sense of identity, of like better self-care that's just like more direct, that's divinely orchestrated. If you start pushing too hard, you'll experience a Capricorn. You'll just all of a sudden get shut the fuck down, The red flags are going to be frustration, angst, irritation. That's when like, well, my mind or my mood, my emotions, the actions I'm taking, they're going in a weird, wrong direction. I need to like pull back. Maybe you need to like take a quick like power nap, go for a walk or something like that, meditate, because it's weird, Capricorn, but it's like you have a long cycle ahead of creativity with Pluto in your second house in Aquarius, but it's like that could feel like the thing that you want to really like go for. And with the aspects between Saturn in the third and Uranus in the fifth, it's like I want to create, there's a lot of good creativity energy, and it's like, yes, create, but create the best quality stuff, and I would be putting an effort into your facing any fears you have around like your skill set, like of that. But it's like you have to nurture yourself and be poised and centered, and your mind has to be firing and focused on the right things. So it's like, get your energy right, get your emotions, your mind, your mood right, don't force it. And then it's like, okay, you're creating, you're in building mode, build your kingdom or rebuild your kingdom. It's like, look at Mel Gibson, he's a Capricorn, he's like, his house burned down, but before that, Hollywood kicked him out. He's rebuilding his kingdom, very fifth house, second house stuff. But when you're rebuilding it, don't try to hurry up and rebuild it with just like fake ass, quick build material where someone can just like, cut a hole in the wall in the middle of the night and steal all your shit. Like build the brick fortress, the unshakable stuff where you're building your foundation. So take your time, make sure it's really quality. You want to figure out the exact steps to like do that, because it's going to be really unique to how you experience Pluto that went through your sign since 2008 until earlier this year. I would say, but probably best bet is book a reading, Capricorn, because Capricorns are all spread around different sectors and parts of the world with what they're rebuilding right now. You're in a very unique situation where it's unique to your heart, your creation, and your value system. So I wouldn't want to advise you to build something that's not your cup of tea, or take the actions that are not really for you. It's way more personal to you. Neptune in your fourth house in Aries. So that link will be down below to book a reading if you'd like to do that. When it comes to Aquarius, I should probably start taking a drink before I announce it. I'll just redo it. Aquarius, you are fucked. No, just kidding, Aquarius. You got Pluto in your sign. You're going to be fine. Just stay within the bounds and the constructs of the world and what is going on and some of the trends with tech and AI, and just have a beat on that. That's going to, I think, keep you anchored into this reality a little bit of the understanding of how you're updating, but it's reflected in how the world's updating and civilization's updating, the whole world's updating. But with Aries being your third house of the mind, I think that number one is Neptune in the third. I will tell you, as someone that just like went through since 2011, Neptune in the third, check up on your mental health. Neptune is a weird way of scrambling the facts in the mind, and the mind starts like flipping and going back and forth in this weird, crazy, extreme way. Just make sure that your mind feels good. I think you're going to be okay. I wouldn't let the mind lead right now. Think of like Neptune, how it's like the outpost. It rules the sign that is the furthest out there, even though Pluto's really the furthest, but at times Pluto's not the furthest too. So that's what's weird if you know astronomy, but it's like Pisces is the last sign. So think of Neptune in your mind as like your last resort, which is kind of fucking weird, but it's almost like with all the Pisces energy in your second house, that Venus, Mercury retrograde, at least until the middle of the month, they'll both finish. Mercury on the 7th, Saturn, North Node meaning. It's like, stay more focused on like what you're creating. And it's almost like create it and just feel into the dark of the direction you're going in and create, and just like, I don't know what I'm doing, but the idle hands are the devil's playground. And, like God is asking me to like do this thing, but it's like, you're not having thoughts like that. That would be crazy. It's like, you feel the inspiration, you have the energy moving through you like this divine conduit to create, and then let your mind assess it afterwards and like see the beauty in what you're creating, see the beauty in the person that you're becoming, which I know can be hard to do, but just honor your creation. So in a more practical sense, it's like, yes, you're figuring out very much so relationships, money situations, your value systems. It could be like this weird new assessment of like, wait, I thought I was on the right solid path, and like now things don't feel solid. Neptune's in your third, so it's mutable energy, and it's like, it's all of a sudden like, whoa, I got to go in a new direction and I got to change something. It's like, hang on a second. Don't quit what you're creating right now. Pisces is your second house. These retrogrades, Neptune, the ruler of that second house, in your third. Don't let your mind start taking over or say that you got to change things and the facts don't like match yet. Like, treat this like finish what you started, you know, and read the writing on the wall. It's like, keep picking the berries off the bush, but if the bush, new berries aren't growing, don't sit at that bush until that last rotten berry, you know, falls off that you can't reach, and, you know, and that's your sustenance for life. Like, start making the changes, like read the writing on the wall, like start planting the seeds for different directions that you can go in, and understand there's periods too. Like, Neptune is not staying in Aries this whole year, right? Like, do not go in a new crazy direction that isn't going to make sense for the whole year. It's like plant seeds, and I'd say it's more so like play around with those things, but also at the same time, don't be stubborn and like don't make a move. So your best bet is to trust your intuition of what you're guided towards and explore it. Be like, just one little thing at a time, one little brick at a time. Okay, my intuition is saying take this next step. I don't know what steps 2, 3 look like, but right now this feels good. So I'm solid in it. I'll take this step. I'll check it out. And that I might go straight forward. It might lead you to a dead end feeling, but it's not. It's just a T intersection, and you got to go left or right. And then you trust your intuition. You've checked the facts. Is it left? Is it right? Is it more feminine? Is it more masculine? You know, like reflect on your days, like show up, take the action so that you're being shown, but then kind of like look at your behavior patterns for the day to make sure that you're actually owning your self-worth fully, and that your behaviors and your actions that you can mentally analyze and see, like, did I just do the same stuck thing, or did I actually build something that's quality, that something I'm already building, but I'm also honoring myself by going to the next higher level that you didn't think was possible, because maybe you didn't think you had the energy for it, but that you still got Pluto direct for a little bit longer. It's like, if you have the energy to do it and your intuition's saying do it, do it. Just don't get ahead of yourself with your mind. So that would be pure ego. So if you want to go deeper than that, Aquarius, you can click on that link down below and book a reading with me. Finally, we have Pisces. Pisces, well, Neptune's out of your sign for a few months. It's in your second house. Money, relationships, your creations. I would honestly start with this initiation phase of musing on, like, what is it that you want to create, where it's okay if you've been trying to work through your wounds of stability, of consistency with Chiron in the second house, which is Aries for you, and utilize this new oomph of the solar eclipse to create more of a feminine, slow trot, not too aggressive, very spiritual flow-like way of creating things, where things make sense. You have like a fucking routine way of inviting spirit in, where it's like your intentionality to connect with spirit, like when you go to create or you go to initiate something, especially if it's new, or even if you just need to revisit something current in your life, but it's like not budging, or it's stubborn, or it's been frustrating you. Intentionality of inviting in spirit. Like, you don't need like all the Snow White doors to like work on the railroad all day to complete whatever it is that you've been initiating over however long it's been. You know, go all the way back to 2011. It could go back to 2 years ago. However long it's been, you don't need an over exuberant amount of partnerships to build it. I think that you just need a spiritual connection to just lay the bricks kind of yourself, you're in a lot of like early phases of astrology. Your first house, your second house, that's mostly what things are focused on. And then even where Saturn's in your sign with that North Node focused on you, making aspects to Uranus, that's in your third house. Everything's in the baby beginner stages of the houses. And that's not a bad thing. It just means that you've got some wiggle room. Like, you've actually got the most territory to know that you're the best asset to the world just by vibing high, Pisces. Like, it's okay. Like, it's early on in your creations. Like, do things that make sense for your money situations that don't go to like too many crazy extremes, which I don't think you're doing. But I think it's more so just like, okay, this is what I'm doing. How do I build to that next level of things? And it's probably going to be a lot of self-reliance right now. Why do I say that? South Node in Virgo in your seventh. Building some matrix system of like, oh, I could talk to this person and this person can help me do this and this and this and this. Your best bet is to like first check in with your own intentional intuitive connection and know that if your first instinct is to want to reach out to a person, like, come on, you're better than that, like, be solid in your spiritual connection and, identify what's really going on and start to become the Pisces that the world needs, that more people are coming to you and magnetizing to you and asking you for help instead of like, I need help with this boo-boo. I need help with, this ailment or this symptom that like I'm not feeling peaceful in. It's not the ideal time for, some romantic situation, at least not yet. It will be when Jupiter leaves your fourth house later this year and comes into your fifth house in Cancer with the solstice and the sun, so Sun, Jupiter in your fifth, that's going to be great in connections with kids. But as getting ahead of myself, that's you getting, me inviting you to get ahead of yourself. Don't follow me down that trail, but follow me down this trail of be good to yourself during this time. Like, take care of the things that are just the basic, more like day-to-day stuff that actually you doing it with like, I'll call this ruthless efficiency and being stubborn for your commitments that you've made to yourself, and you just like keep doing it, and that lifts your vibration. And just remember, like, basic stuff. If there's blocks, frustrations, if you're trying to make changes, immediately go to, well, why do I want to do this? Like, I'm manifesting my reality. This is the reality I chose. If it's feeling like a prison, then it is an invitation to like lift up higher into your self-worth. But you're going to have to slowly use the metaphysical tools that you have at your disposal and your intuitive connection to start to create that map and to be consistent with that, and not like a radical hitting the eject button, because that would be like abandoning yourself essentially. So you got this, Pisces. You're in a good spot. You've got wiggle room. If you want to go deeper than that, you can click on that link down below and book a reading with me. Love and appreciate you all, everyone who tuned in today for this sun rising information for your April. We especially, of course, focused on that Neptune entering into Aries today, but also we have to talk about all the Pisces too, because there's still a lot of it. And with Neptune being at the start of the zodiac now and ruling Pisces, like this is where the action's mostly at. So I would take it to the bank. And I think the best way for any sign to use this is to probably take notes, and jot down things that resonate, and then do some like free write, more abstract intuitive journaling on how does that land and show up for you, and see that that's part of how this reality works, is that you hear an idea, it inspires you, but then you take it further and you become your own co-creator in that way. And like, that's what I'm always aimed at helping people doing. And that's also what I'm doing with people in the coaching work that I do when people sign up for these 3 or 6 month intuitive coaching containers. But we're also doing astrology, breath work, hypnosis. We're getting over the past and the blocks and all the horse shit, and it's all treasures, right? We're alchemizing it. It's actually get people into a place where they're manifesting and creating life more consciously and not reacting, because that's the old reality. We're walking out of the old reality with all this energy, and that's the best part about Neptune and Aries is like, now we're initiating the direction spiritually, and it's better to be fearless after all the fear that's been in our face of Neptune and Pisces, you know, the good, the bad, the ugly, that bad, ugly part, but also the good part of like, we developed more of a subconscious spiritual connection. But now this is where we become the hero, the soldier, like on the field, that's actually like expressing that, but we're still new to it. We're still seeding like new directions. It's not about overdoing it, because if we go in too many different directions and create too many different senses of self, like honestly, this could be like where people go like schizo and start creating like new protector parts, or like, you know, all the IFS coach, which I do IFS too, but it's like the IFS coaches like get rich, you know, because people are creating some really crazy identities that when Saturn comes into Aries and joins Neptune next month in May, that it's going to put a hard reality check on like anything that we initiated that didn't really come from spirit, didn't really come from source. And so that's why I think that this month it's good to use it, at least until Taurus season, the 19th, 20th at the end of the month, to really work on the sense of self and the identity, because one, everything just naturally flows from that anyway, right? That's just sense and sensibility. But two, it's like the quality creations will just naturally stem from the rootedness that we have in this new avatar, this new sense of being. And so I didn't really mention too much Taurus energy for this month, just because, you know, there's still so much Aries and Pisces energy anyway, even when the sun enters into Taurus. And so Taurus won't catch up to Uranus until May anyway. But I would look at this as like, just know that if you follow this information in this video, if you follow the studious nature of what it is that you're changing within yourself, your own character, your own behaviors, that avatar update, and being spiritually wise in that way, you'll know when's the time to break ground and to be stubborn and tenacious and commit, but still in a very beautiful feminine way of being open to receiving the quality of your efforts when it comes to more of the physical nature of new creations, project, relationship situations, or even just like re-upping the commitment on the things that we've already been doing. Because I know it can feel like sluggish energy with all this astrology that we've been going through for months, but Mars is finally leaving Cancer this month and going into Leo. And so, you know, we can start to get more bravado back. But, you know, use this video to at least at a minimum, it's going to get you for the first 3 weeks of this month, but really it's going to carry you through the whole month too. It's just the restrictions energetically, subconsciously, fears, doing this stuff for this video is going to allow those restrictions to like really lift by the end of the month, and that we can really move forward in a very potent direction, where that's the nice thing about what's going on in the world and like the changes and some things falling apart. Like demolition opens up space, you know. It's like you tear down an old building and then you start clearing the rubble. And, you know, there's that song, Put Up a Parking Lot, but Spirit's saying like, why would you put up a parking lot? Like, you could build this, you could build that, you could do this, you could do that. It's an opening, right? It's a clearing for people that want to take their power back onto their own hands and create and see that, you know, you can do this, that you don't have to wait for something out in the world to tell you what the new status quo is going to be. That's the lower tiers of Pluto and Aquarius. The higher tier is going first. It's being a way shower and knowing that people, community is a part of that. So it's not just about doing everything alone. That won't work, but it is about updating the strongest sense of ourselves, so that like when things really start to click in place later this year with more community connections and those visions can start to actually come true, that we just feel like the most potent version of ourselves. And so I know I've said iterations of that before, but it still stands true. That's That's my, what do you want to call it? Socratic, intuitive, prophetic philosophy around the adaptation of man, woman right now. Every man, woman, child, of how we're all changing as humans. Like, we're in a really, really brand new zone, and cannot understate that enough. We're here, we've arrived. And we haven't even seen all the dominoes fall into place yet, but at least we can get out of our own way now and actually make moves, make the updates to ourselves subconsciously to go in a direction that we desperately need to go in, for our own happiness and fulfillment, and to see that there are places for bravery and courage still in this modern world of convenience and amenities, and it can be easy to just hide in the same routines and stay in your house and all this shit. But that also the world needs our creative inspiration and boldness to be put out there, and new ways of doing that. So love you all. I'll see you next month for the May edition. And of course, Celestial Conversations, I do that every Wednesday. So there's at least a weekly video that I put out for the collective, so you can check that out. And I'm also partially plugging that just so I could let this video go to an hour and 11 minutes, and to just be goofy and synchronistic like that. So I appreciate you all. See you around.